Hey there, Craig Daniels here. Wanted to do a short how-to video on creating a new desktop wallpaper. This video will go along with the blog post that describes the steps for this, but you can see here time for 2020. So I want to create a new desktop with some new pictures, recent pictures, and a calendar for my desktop. You can see it. In fact, if I minimize everything, I'll come back to those apps, but I need a new wallpaper here. So this is the goal, is to fill this up with some new wallpaper. So the blog post talks about the steps involved. We're going to use some composition, some really basic composition, but you'll be amazed at how quickly and easily you can create different photo compositions. I'll be using Microsoft Publisher in this demonstration. I'm on a Windows PC, and those that have already Microsoft Word and Excel and have that Office suite, you also have a program in the Windows suite, that is Microsoft Publisher. And I'll be using that app for this tutorial. If you're on a Mac, you can do a similar type of thing using the PowerPoint app because the Mac suite for Office doesn't have Publisher for some reason, but you can do the same composition types of things in PowerPoint. So the screen would look a little bit differently, but the steps would be virtually the same. So what we're going to do is we're going to take bits, some photos, we're going to take a snapshot of a calendar, and we're going to put it together. So, but by the way, we're also going to look at, I'm going to put a spotlight on another web app called Photopea, and that app is very much like Photoshop, but it's a free web app. So let's go ahead and get started, and this quick little how-to tutorial is going to show you how to do that for yourself. So the first thing is I'll start up Microsoft Publisher, and when you start Publisher, you can see you've got the ribbon of different things that you can do in here. One of the very first things I need to do is set up because I'm going to be creating a desktop wallpaper. So the typical piece of paper, as far as size and so forth, doesn't work because our desktops are formatted in what's called a 16:9 ratio. This piece of paper right here is 8.5 by 11. So the first thing I'm going to do right here is I'm going to go into the size, and this is going to be a special because there is no paper that's 16 inches by 9 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and go into page setup, and I'm just going to go ahead and put in 16 by 9. Again, this is just a special. Paper's not really that shape or size, but for the purpose of emulating what our screen shape is, this is the dimensions we need: 16 inches, 9 inches. The other thing is I don't need these margins here, so I'm going to go ahead and under the page design, under margins, I'm going to go ahead and just clear my margins. This isn't a piece of paper. I don't need those, and those lines are just going to interfere with my work. So the very next thing I want to do is the desktop. I don't want my desktop to be white. So I'm going to go ahead and under page design, I'm going to come over here to the page background. This is the pull down. You can pick from various presets, as you can see, including some gradients. But the one I want is unfounded or more backgrounds. Click that, and I'm going to go ahead and just do a solid fill. And under that, I'm going to go here, and I'm going to pick. You can pick from any of these preset palette of colors, or you can click the More Colors option, and that's where you get a little bit more. I'm going to make this bigger so we can see it. You get the full gamut of colors. So as you can see, as I slide this pointer around, that color is going to change from brighter to the top to more grayish on the bottom. So I'm gonna work in the blue here. I'm gonna experiment with this a little bit. I don't want it too light. I like my backgrounds to be fairly dark and fairly gray tone, so it's not a big bright blue background in my vision. So blue, somewhat gray, darkened up somewhat, and I'm going to try that and see how that works. All right, I like that. That'll work. So the next thing that we'll do, let me make this window just a little bit wider. You see on my desktop over here in the background, I've got two images, two photos. So I'm going to take those two photos, I'm going to drag them over here to my canvas, and it's just going to drop them off. So one of the very first things in this app that you'll get used to is these objects are all floating. And I can take any of the four corners and drag those corners down. Take those corners, drag them down. I can just pick these up and move them around. So what I wanted to do is kind of set these up how I want them. I'm going to maybe perhaps do that and that, make this a little bigger, And I can fine tune this later as I get more laid out here. But the first thing I wanted to do is to select both of them. So I'm going to go ahead and pick the first one. I'm going to use the Control key on the Windows and pick the second one. And up under the Picture Tools format, there's this pull down of all kinds of different styles with picture borders. You can have shapes and different things going on. The very first one though is one I kind of like. It's just got a white border. It's got a drop shadow. Don't see the drop shadow too much in a dark background, but if you're on a lighter page, you would see the drop shadow. But here's the two images now with the white picture frame border on it. So I can take this one, maybe I'll make it a little bit bigger. Actually, I'm going to swap this around. I'm going to do it this way. And then this handle right here, in fact, if I zoom in a little bit, you can see there's a handle that extends upward from the top of the middle of the picture, and that is a rotation. So I can go ahead and use that to rotate this image as such. So maybe I'll rotate it a little bit just because I'm trying to emulate a little bit of photographs, say sitting on a tabletop, right? Now in this case here, you see this picture is actually coming underneath the other picture. So up in the toolbar, you'll see you've got items up here that says bring forwards and send backwards. So the order of things, it tells what is on top and what's on the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and pick this object, come up to this item here, and I'm going to actually just tell it come all the way to the front. If whatever is interfering, just bring that one all the way to the front. You can see that raised it up to the top here. And then I'm going to go ahead and zoom back out, and we can see how that. Now we can I'll fine tune this a bit as we go. I want to go on and jump into the next step, which is the calendar. I'm going to put the calendar up here on the top. So back in my blog post, let's see if I jump there. Let's jump to there's a hyperlink here to a website, timeanddate.com. And that'll take you directly to the 2020 calendar. And it's what I wanted to do. You can have the option to make a PDF file. And the reason I like to make a PDF file is because I'm going to do a screen snapshot of what's on the screen. And by doing a PDF file, it's going to be a little bit higher resolution. The quality of the text is going to be a little bit sharper. So that hyperlink that I gave you already had this. All of these holidays are already unchecked because what I want to do here is just create a calendar that is just really just truly black and white, because I just want this to be on my desktop, not want to be struggling with different colors, and I just want a truly monochrome image. So I unchecked all the holidays and different things that are going to interfere by highlighting and shading and all that kind of thing, and just have a true black and white. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is just generate this PDF, download this PDF file. You see there's a big button here, download the PDF. That will download it, and it will open it. And then what I'm going to do in my PDF app here is I'm going to make my PDF app nice and big, and I'm going to zoom in so that the calendar is nice and big. Now I'm not going to take the whole calendar because that would take up virtually most of my desktop. I'm just going to take the first 4 months here. So I'm going to do a screen snapshot, and I like the shortcut key for that, which is Windows key down with the Shift key down, and then the S key, S for snapshot. And you can see my screen dims out, and then I'm going to draw a box around this. This is what I want. And what that will do is it's going to create a snapshot of that onto my clipboard. You can see down here, it actually popped up. This is what it captured. And what I want to do with this is, well, first of all, let me just show you. If I go back to Publisher and I could just paste that right now, and I would have this calendar on my, and I could go ahead and just move that and size it. But I don't really, and that would be fine, and you could work with that, right? If that's where you want to leave it, and you're just okay with that, that's fine. What I'd like to do though is take it to the next step, and I want to inverse this so that it's actually I don't want to see all this white background, and I would like. But if I just take out the white background, this would be black text on a blue background. That wouldn't show up very well. So what I need to do is not only take out the background, but I need to invert the colors so that the text turns white. So what I'm going to do in order to make that happen is, first of all, I'm going to jump back to my snip and sketch window here, because what I need to do is I need to save this image, not just have it on the clipboard, but go ahead and save it. So I'm going to go ahead and save it, and I'm just going to, on my desktop, it's just a temporary file. I'll call it calendar. And it'll be a PNG file. That's fine. Okay, so it should be on my desktop now. You You can see here's my calendar PNG over here. So what I'm going to do next is open up the PhotoP window. So this is photop.com, and again, this is very much like Photoshop, except it's on the web. And so what I'm going to do here is going to do the File command, open. I'm going to find that calendar PNG that's on my desktop. It will open it up, and there you can see it. So if you're at all familiar with Photoshop, it's very similar. For instance, if I wanted to zoom, I can hold the Alt key down and roll the mouse wheel. And if I wanted to pan, I can press the space bar and I can pan like this. And so it's very much like Photoshop. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to zoom in a little bit, another notch here. You can see I've got my black text, my white background. So the very first tool that I'm going to show you here is down here, up here on the left side toolbar. And it's where you can select objects, quick selection, magic wand. I'm going to go ahead and do the magic wand. And then the toolbar here on the ribbon shows me the settings. So the setting that's going to help me out here is whether this is contiguous selection or not. I don't want it to be contiguous. What that means is if I pick a point here, it will also keep on picking the same color match inside. So like in the case of this number 4 here, I want to actually pick out the insides of those numbers, or that 0 or that 6, picking the inside as well. So that means it's not contiguous. So that's unchecked. With a magic wand, now I'll go ahead and pick a point, and you can see on the screen it's kind of dash outlined what's called a selection. So all of that space now has been selected. Nothing's happened yet, it's just been selected. But the next thing I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and press the delete key on my keyboard. And you see all that white now turned to checkerboard. Checkerboard in a Photoshop app means that it's transparent. So in the future, if I were to put this on top of something else, all the transparency areas would show through. So I'm done with my selection. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the Control D for deselect. And all that selected area disappears. That's important to do, is to deselect, because otherwise any other adjustments that you make will only be in the selected area. So the selected area was out here. I want to change the black of the letters. So that was in the non-selected area, so I have to deselect all my area for that to happen. So next I'm going to do the image adjustments. So I'm going to follow this path, and I'm looking for invert. So I could also use the shortcut Control I. Invert. So now my black turned to white, and there's some fringing going on around the outside, so that's fine. That will just actually emphasize my letters a little bit when I put that on top of my wallpaper. So that's actually fine, and that's all the tasks that I needed to do in this app, except for the fact that I need this file in my other app. So I'm going to use the File command. I'm going to do Export As. Again, use the PNG option. PNG is good for graphics like this, especially when you have transparencies like this. So I'll do PNG. I'm just going to go ahead and keep all the default settings and hit save. And it went ahead and downloaded that image. So I'm going to take that, actually, I'll drag that over to my desktop there so I can get that into my publisher. So I'm going to jump that down, jump my publisher back up. I'm going to select that one because I'm not going to use it. Erase it. And I'm going to go ahead and pick this one here and drag it over here, and there it is. So you can see the white text with the transparent background. And again, I can resize this to whatever size I need it to be. Now, again, you could stop right there and all's well, and you could call it a day. But I'm going to keep going a little bit more. I'm going to add a couple more elements just to make this pop out a little bit more. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to my Shapes tool here. I'm going to pick a rectangle. And I'm going to go ahead and just draw a rectangle. It's going to be all the wrong color, but that's okay. And I'm going to take this calendar, and I'm going to go ahead and use the option to bring it to the front, so that'll come up on the front. Now what I want to do is make this rectangle darker. So I could go ahead and pick on this again, and in fact if I double click on that object, it takes me directly to the formatting ribbon. And then I can go ahead and pick the fill for that rectangle. So I could go ahead and say, well, let's try a different blue. Like that, don't like it. Try that, like it, don't like it. So you could work with that, and again, you can even do more fill colors, and you can open this wide and see the whole option. So maybe I wanted to have a color like that. So okay, that's a little bit darker than I wanted, but you could see how that works, and you can fine tune it. I want more time on this video to fine tune that, but you see how that works. And then I can go ahead and take this rectangle, bring it out here a little bit, And so now I have a little bit of a background to my calendar, but it's the white text on the dark background. So I'm going to take this shape over here. And the last thing I wanted to do is to go ahead and insert a text, what's called a text box. So if I jump back to my Home tab, I'm going to go to the Insert tab, and you see here there's Insert a Text Box. So I'm going to go ahead and insert a text box. I'm just going to draw a rectangle here. I'll move it into place in a moment, but that just allows me to start typing. So if I type in 2020, that's the year that I want. So now I can go ahead and use my fonts toolbar up here to pick a font. Like if I wanted to make that, let's say Franklin, let's do Franklin Gothic Demi, that's fine. And then I can hit the increase size button here and just kind of get that up into the size that I want. I'm going to go ahead and also make that a white text. So I'm going to pick this text color and make that white. And then when I drag this over here, you'll see that's how that's going to look. All right, so this is the text box, and that's just a floating object that if I pick it up by its edge, like this, oops, and there's a good example of if you grab something you didn't mean to grab, you can just use the undo command, which is Control-Z, put that back. So here's my text. I'm going to go ahead and get that into place like that. And now if I take a look at my overall, now I could take these pictures and let's make them a little bit bigger. So let's take a corner. Again, I don't know if I mentioned this in this video so far, but don't take the edge, because what happens is if you take an edge is you can get it way out of shape. See that? So always take a corner and grab the corners, and that way the shape will grow proportionally. So let's put that together, something like that. Maybe take this rectangle and tighten it up a little bit. Something like that. All right, and that's virtually the pieces of my desktop. Now what I need to do in order to make this a desktop is get this as an image file. So I'm going to go ahead and, well, first of all, all this work that I've done, I should save my publisher file. So I'm going to hit File, and I'm going to hit Save As. And I can just put it on my desktop for now. But this is the publisher file, so if you ever want to go back and do some more edits, you can open it up in the future and do some more edits. Like what happens when it becomes May and you want to put a new calendar in there after April. That calendar is off the no longer valid. So I'm going to go ahead and save this as my 2020 desktop wallpaper. That's a PUB file for publisher. If you're in PowerPoint on a Mac, it'd be a PPT file for PowerPoint. So I go ahead and save that. So now I can realize that I can come back to this file in the future, and that's a good thing. But I can't make a publisher file into a desktop. So the next thing I'm going to do the Save As command again. Well, let me actually, instead of putting it in my desktop, because I don't want this file to live in my desktop, I would rather have it, say, in my Pictures folder. Okay, so I'm going to change the file extension to be JPEG. So it's going to live in my Pictures folder. It's going to be called 2020 Desktop Wallpaper. It's going to be a JPEG file, and I'm going to go ahead and save that. So now what I can do is open up my Pictures folder. And there it is, there's the JPEG file. And the last thing I need to do is I'm going to go ahead and right click on that image and say Set as Desktop Background. And you can see my background is changing. So if I minimize all, there I have my desktop. And we put all the pieces together to have them come together, and so now I have a nice updated 2020 desktop image. Well, there you have it. Thanks for joining me today. I hope that you were able to see how not only you could make a desktop wallpaper, but how you could leverage the apps like Publisher, PowerPoint. They're very great for creating graphics and compositions, not only for desktop wallpapers, but even for creating graphics for your websites and blog posts and so forth. So this was just one case in point of how you can use these apps and be able to benefit from it. So hope you learned something today, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.